All right, welcome back to the Evexia Exchange podcast, an exchange of ideas around fitness, wellness, and community. We are really, really stoked to have our next guest, Dr. Molly Maloof. She's our new health advisor at the club, and we're going to be talking about a lot of fun stuff. But before we do, how are you, brother?
I'm good, man. That last episode we did with Daria, that was off the charts. Loved it.
Yeah.
But I'm really looking forward to this topic because stress is something that I take on a ton.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're going to use you sort of as our case study in a way to talk about a really important topic.
I can't get any more open than I was in the other podcast about myself, so might as well bring it.
But that last episode was Daria Folsom. She was a news anchor with Cron for 30 years, and we got into some really heavy stuff about like how news is delivered, why newsrooms make certain choices on what we see, and she ultimately ended up leaving because she didn't want to read that kind of news anymore.
Well, news has become a huge source of stress for people.
Totally.
And I love reading the news, but when I read the crazy stuff happening in the country and the world, it seems like it's become more and more designed to activate your emotions and to create
100%.
anger.
Oh, yeah.
And these negative emotions are not healthy long-term to be experiencing, right? Like when I was growing up, the news was kind of positive. Like there was always good things in the news. It wasn't always negativity. But we have a natural nervous system bias towards fear and avoiding fear.
Yeah.
Right? So so that typically gets more attention is negative news.
Right.
And unfortunately, a lot of people don't have the self-control to turn it off. My parents are chronic Fox News watchers.
Oh God, right.
They watch it all day, every day. And I learned that like I just have to leave the room.
My brother's the same way. I walked into his house and it's just the Fox shit is just
just
rolling
always
in the background.
Fox.
I'm like, what? All right, so let's get into who Molly is. Molly is our new Dr. Molly, we like to call her, is our new health advisor. She's going to be doing lectures, podcasts, obviously, some articles for our members. We're really, really stoked. I'm just going to read a little bit for those that mostly listen. So Dr. Molly Maloof is a physician, entrepreneur, and leading voice in personalized health, optimization, resilience, science, and longevity medicine. She's known for her work at the intersection of stress, physiology, mitochondrial health, and performance medicine, helping high-performing individuals build sustainable energy, adaptability, and long-term health. You do seminars. You're on the speaking circuit. And we're just so excited to have you here. In fact, when we were talking about like, what are we going to talk about? You gave me like 20 choices of expertise.
Well, you gave me a big, broad topic of stress. And I happen to have taught an entire segment of my course at Stanford when I used to teach there.
Yeah.
And it's a big portion of my book is literally on trying to understand stress because I feel like it's one of the biggest drivers of disease, if not the greatest driver.
Yeah.
And yet it's not really taught to us in medical school properly. It's not really explained how to manage stress, how to actually deal with dysfunction in the body as a result of stress, right?
Yeah.
We basically wait in modern medicine until there's full-blown disease pathology. But if you actually tackle stress early and often, you can really avoid a lot of these chronic illnesses from developing.
So let's because words are important. What is stress? Define stress for us.
Sure. So the way I will define it, and my goal is to define it in a way that hopefully people can understand. But essentially, any perturbation to our system, our physiological system, can be a stressor, or it can be something that can help us adapt to make us stronger. So there's this thing called hormesis, right? Small amounts of stress can make you stronger. And I've written an entire book that really covers the importance of some stress is good. Mm-hmm. Without stress, we don't thrive. Turns out that they once built a biodome and filled it with plants, and there was no wind, there was no stress, there was no storms, and the plants all died because they actually need a little bit of stress. They need to be in an environment that's
really
stressful
interesting,
in order to thrive. Wow. So no stress at all is not good, right? But there's essentially a curve that you go through. A certain amount of stress that a person can tolerate before it becomes what's known as allostatic overload. So allostatic load is your cumulative amount of stress, which is these perturbations to homeostasis, perturbations to our body's ability to maintain our normal set points of our blood pressure, our heart rate, and our blood glucose.
That's a fancy word for disturbance,
yeah,
essentially. Yeah,
disturbance.
Yeah.
And homeostasis is our baseline function of our body. It's how we regulate our body. We have a regulated nervous system. We have a regulated immune system. We have a regulated, blood sugar and blood pressure. And all of these things are going to respond and adapt to the demands of our life. But when those demands start to fill up the stress cup and there's allostatic overload, that's when we start seeing the early signs of illness develop. We start seeing stress-related conditions. We start seeing the hallmarks of aging. And then we start seeing the markers of chronic disease. So a lot of this is new science. This is like very, very new stuff coming from the work of Robert Nebbio and Martine Picard, these phenomenal researchers who've basically figured out that the mitochondria, these powerhouses of our cells, their job is to take information from the outside world and transduce it into chemical signatures like stress hormones or sex hormones or other messages to get the body to respond and adapt and direct energy to where it needs to go.
Okay.
So short-term stress is actually can be useful and adaptive. We're designed for, if you ever been outside and seen like a herd of animals before, like elk or deer.
Yeah, sure.
Like they're designed to their experience is generally pretty chill most of the days, and then they get hit with a major stressor and then they respond and adapt and they move on. So it's not natural for humans to be experiencing chronic stress all day long, every day for months on end. That is where the cells become dysfunctional over time. So that is where there's this allostatic overload and we start seeing the signs and symptoms of chronic disease.
One of the things, I think we opened the clubhouse 2 years into it. I had this pain behind my ear. It was horribly painful. And the next thing I knew, my eye just blew up. Found out that I ended up with shingles. Didn't know about the vaccination, but it was the most painful experience I've ever went through.
Right.
I was passing out for literally 7 minutes at a time when the pain would subside. The question is, I think it was brought from stress.
Yeah.
It was opening up this club. So thanks for helping.
Hey, this was your idea.
Yeah, right. So I'm able to maintain it. It's not going to go away. I got permanent damage from it.
Yeah.
But what causes the shingles?
Sure. So I have a weird passion for viruses, and it's because we know so little about them and we were taught so little about them in medical school. But the one things we were taught is that they're pretty hard to eradicate from the body. So when you get chickenpox, that virus sticks around and can reemerge as shingles as an adult, right? So we carry these viruses, we carry herpes viruses in these nerve terminals in our body. So I got mono for the first time when I was 40 years old. And I was going through probably one of the most stressful years of my life, but it was really devastating. I mean, I was knocked on my butt, and it just takes one viral infection to induce chronic fatigue.
Yeah.
And we didn't really understand the link between intracellular infections and chronic illness until really the COVID epidemic basically revealed to us that chronic fatigue syndrome is not hypochondriasis, it's mitochondria in nature. And I was actually studying viruses the summer of 2019. And I was like, oh my God, we don't know enough about these. And why are we not educating people about this stuff? Because we haven't had a major viral plague for 100 years. We're kind of overdue. And I was like, oh my gosh, if we have a big plague, then we are extremely metabolically unhealthy, our country as a whole. Only 92% of people in America are not metabolically well. That is the vast majority of people. And even I was not metabolically well over a decade ago. I had insulin resistance in my early 30s. And it was actually after another viral infection I had then. So unfortunately, because of lack of metabolic health, when people get hit with viral infections, it can really wreak havoc on a person's health. So that's where we saw post-COVID syndrome. Now, in your case and in my case, you can be pretty healthy and have a strong baseline of health. But if you have enough stress, unrelenting stress over time, what happens is the body goes into the cell danger response. The cell danger response is the body's response to major threat. It's designed to shift metabolism from peacetime to wartime, from growth and regeneration to defense and protection. And when that happens, if you get hit with more and more stressors in that state of major threat, your body doesn't complete the healing cycle. So this ends up wearing you down. And if your immune system wears down far enough, usually it's usually an end result of, believe it or not, there's a big nervous system and gut crosstalk. So your vagus nerve goes from your brain to your gut. And if you have a lot of stress, you're not digesting properly. If you're not digesting properly, you're going to develop dysbiosis. You're going to develop problems with your digestion in your gut. That's when we start seeing effects on the immune system as well. So essentially, when your immune system goes down, latent viruses in the body can reactivate, or you become susceptible to new infections. So, for example, if there's like a brownout, alarm systems don't work very well, right? Like electronics don't work. Well, a brownout can happen in a person's health, in their physiology, just from their batteries being drained from so much stress.
Yeah.
Because you only have so much energy to spend on stress, right? Before things start to break down. And when the energy starts going down, the immune system, it just becomes impaired, because it's kind of like an army. You can't have a functional army without enough energy. If they don't have gas to power their tanks, they're not going to run. And so the immune system gets very much impaired with chronic stress and with low energy availability.
That's what it is.
And so this dormant virus, most likely in his case, saw an opportunity. Basically.
It's like, ooh, I can attack, because he's not protected. His immune system is not. They're like kind of wandering around like, we don't know what we're doing right now.
What's crazy about it is where I got it in my eye, it's like 101,001 in that area. It's usually on the side, the rashes on the side.
Yeah, it's super uncommon.
It was really bizarre.
Yeah.
So I had extra stress problems.
Lucky you.
I mean, it's
Go big or
extra
go
stressful to
home.
have it. I mean, it's a medical emergency.
Yeah. And I was
know?
diagnosed with the wrong diagnosis. They didn't give me the Valtrex for.
Did they think it was like trigeminal neuralgia or something?
Yes, but not shingles. So it got worse because I didn't have the right
Oh my God.
antibiotics. It was crazy.
Well, it's really interesting because in reading through your notes, you describe this idea called the Goldilocks principle, and it's something that makes a lot of sense. The certain amount of stress is good, too much is bad. Where do we find that? It's such a big question. Where do we find that in our daily lives, or when we have external forces that are, creating stress on us?
Well, part of this is genetics, and part of this is nurture. So I have to look at a person's entire life to get a real assessment of like what their resilience status is. So your genes will determine a lot of your capacity to handle certain levels of stress. And funnily enough, there's this one gene called catecholomethyltransferase, COMT, and it's known as the warrior or the worrier gene. And
warrior or warrior.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
So depending on whether or not you are homozygous warrior, heterozygous, which is a little bit of each, or homozygous worrier, will determine how well you can handle major stress. So typically when I see CEOs, they're often the warrior phenotype. They often reflect like they can handle a lot of stress. Like they actually thrive under crazy amounts of stress. But then the librarian, they're going to be more of the warrior. They don't really want a stressful job or a stressful life. And I'm in the middle. So like if I get a certain amount of stress, I can function great. But if it's too much, I collapse.
I think I'm in the middle too.
Yeah. Most people are.
Can you test for
You can
that?
test for this,
You
yeah.
can.
There's a company called Self-Decode. They're my sort of preferred partner for genetics testing. I also use another company called DNA Supplementation. That's a clinical test. It's a bit broader. 23andMe going out of business was quite sad because a lot of people didn't download their raw data. And so they just lost all this information about themselves that they could have used.
Yeah.
Because you can take that raw data and you can run it through various companies and readers for genetics and actually determine whether or not you have these baselines.
Yeah, I think I'm on the warrior side. I don't think I love stress, but adversity is my best friend.
Yeah.
But I have a short temper, which is probably caused by stress.
It is. I
Right?
think temper is very much related to stress, but also you have to look at a person's full life, right? So adverse childhood experiences change your nervous system permanently. So children that have been exposed to major neglect, abuse, trauma, essentially like growing up in poverty, their nervous systems are going to be wired for hypervigilance. They're going to be wired to actually try to detect threat effectively. But unfortunately, that creates chronic illness long-term. They're at much higher rates of alcoholism, drug addiction, depression, anxiety, and other chronic diseases.
Shit.
I think she just described you, bro. And I don't mean that in a bad way.
No, I think that was
because
outside the poverty part of it because I grew up with all this my dad's side. But everything else.
I think I share some of that too. I think you might have a little worse is we're hypervigilant because of our childhoods, which can be good. And it feels like our steady state wants to be in a stressful environment.
Yeah.
Or solving a problem or up against some sort of challenge. But it can be, as you know.
But the other thing you need to realize though about stress is that I meet a lot of entrepreneurs. I work with entrepreneurs, and I find that some of the most talented entrepreneurs are the ones who've had trauma growing up.
Yeah.
So like, even though it has these sort of negative effects on our health, it can create enormous levels of resilience and the capacity to handle a lot more pain than the average person. So this is the downside, is that because you can handle so much pain, you push yourself harder than the average person.
Or the stress from risk.
Yeah.
The stress associated with
I
risk.
always feel like you're on fight or flight mode all the time. Which is interesting.
I've spent a lot of time trying to figure out how to rewire nervous systems. And, there's an app called it's called HeartMath. And you can download it and you can I'm actively working on my nervous system's regulation because I think this is going to be, we're going to have a whole revolution around this.
Yeah.
Like everybody's starting to wake up to that. If our nervous systems aren't regulated, our immune systems won't be balanced, our mitochondria won't function properly, and we won't detox effectively, which are all needed for healthy energy. So I'm like, okay, what is the one thing that I can do? So I hired a coach. I have I have an NLP hypnotherapist who's helping me work on my inner conversation with myself. And then I have a program called the Gupta Program Coach. Because after I had mono, I honestly was like, I had to work part-time for about a year. And it was really scary because I'm like a high functioning creature and I was like really unstoppable. And when I kind of like got to the point in my career where I was just on top of the world. And then I realized I had been overstretching myself. So I was teaching at Stanford. I had fundraised for a company. I had launched a book. I was working with founders from some of the largest AI companies in the world. And I thought I was invincible. And then 2024 comes around and my nervous system and my immune system just like could not fight off the mono.
Maxed out.
I maxed out and I had to like really take a reassessment of my life and be like, okay, if I want to like be the example, what am I not doing that I'm telling my patients to do?
Yeah.
And it's like, I'm not regulating properly. I need to learn to develop a state of calm and the capacity to bring myself back to healthy heart rate variability. So there's two things that I would recommend looking at. One is your resting heart rate. Mm-hmm. Highly dependent on your VO2 max and your fitness, but also very much dependent on your stress levels. Yeah. And then and then I would look at like your HRV, which is something that reflects your heart rate's capacity to adapt to demands. So you want good heart rate variability. You want high heart rate variability. And there's an app called HeartMath, which I mentioned, where you can use your finger and you can actually hold it on the camera. And in the moment, anytime during the day, you can check your heart rate variability. And you can see, like I guarantee right now, because I'm kind of worked up about talking about these topics, I would be hazarded to guess that my heart rate variability is pretty low right now because I'm just like, I'm excitable. Now, it's not always a bad thing to be excitable. Sometimes it's a good thing to have like higher quote unquote arousal or energy. But when it's chronically elevated over time, that is also not great for your nervous system.
Yeah, for sure. That makes sense.
So heart rate variability is it basically saying your heart rate's ability to regulate itself after stressful events?
Yeah, it's like how quickly you can return back to baseline, how quickly you can like respond and adapt. The problem with people get older and more stressed is our heart rate starts to rise. And then as our heart rate rises, there's less room for adaptability. And that lack of adaptability is what constitutes part of our aging process.
We have that in the club. We have the My Zones. We do. And so we have the zone training, zone 1 through 4.
It's crucial.
It's amazing. Yeah.
We do VO2 max testing. Yeah. We do resting heart rate testing. We do it all.
In the 50s, so I'm good there. I had a stress test, which I passed with flying colors, which is really cool. I live in this paradox world, I think.
Yeah.
Is there an exam someone can take to really understand their stress level? Is there a questionnaire?
Yes, absolutely.
That would be cool.
I give people a few questionnaires. Yeah. I give them the Holmes Raw rating scale of just what are major stressors that have happened to you during the course of the last year. Yeah. And that will the higher the score you have on this scale, it's like once you pass 150 in points, then your chances of developing an illness go way up. The other thing I do is the perceived stress scale. And the fascinating thing about the perceived stress scale is that they studied the brains of people who had high perceived stress, and they found the same patterns as people with PTSD. So just living in a state of I feel stressed out all the time means that you're literally creating like a traumatic memory in your brain. Like your brain is responding as though you're experiencing trauma. And so the key is you really want to train your brain to be like, to learn to cognitively reframe. And I mentioned this before, but cognitive reframing is the ability to look at your life and your circumstances and find the good and find the positive and find the capacity to find joy and pleasure and work through challenges, not as like, oh, this is all causing me so much stress, but using your own internal language to change your reality by changing your perception of reality, by changing your words and your thoughts.
Yeah. Which is the entire self-help community, from Tony Robbins to Alan Watts to Ram Dass.
For sure.
All about, what do you say? How do you say that? Cognitive reframing.
Yeah, I mean, I thought Tony Robbins was like this honestly. And when I first encountered him, I was like, oh, he's just like a self-help cult leader. And then I went to one of his events.
He's a cognitive reframer.
I went to one of his events and I saw something. I mean, I saw some really fascinating transformations that were happening in real time. And I mean, I saw a man filled with so much passion for helping people. It was like, okay, I understand why he's a cult leader. Like, he really cares about the people that work with him. And he honestly impressed me so much because he basically ran a study with Tony Robbins programs at Stanford and basically showed that his programs were more effective than antidepressants for actually eliminating depression in people.
That.
Really?
And it was because they were able to get people out of their mindset that was, my life, I'm a depressed person and my life sucks. And that's really the first step of healing, is you have to change the way you think about your life.
And so it's so interesting because we've had, we had Mark Coleman on, who's a meditation teacher up at Spirit Rock. And meditation is a very, very important thing. But what the meditation to me seems like it's trying to do is shut down the mind, which is great, which is part of the process. But what we're talking about is when your mind is going to be able to reframe it in such a way.
Well, meditation creates space between perception and reaction and gives you more agency in how you react.
Right.
So I'm actively working on committing to like 2 20-minute sessions a day. It's not easy. But like one of my coaches is like, this is the program you're on, you're going to do it. And I've been trained in so many different meditation styles. The hard part about being a busy person, especially someone who's running multiple businesses, is like you have to put it on your calendar. Because otherwise you're just not going to do it.
That's right.
But it really improves focus. It improves emotional regulation. It basically like calms the clutter of the mind and gives you more space to have more agency in your reactivity.
Like 3 minutes a day or a couple times a day works.
Even a minute a day will do something.
Yeah, clear
I
your
love
head.
that you guys have a meditation room in your co-working space.
Isn't it great? I know. Have you used it yet?
I haven't actually used it, but I'm going to use it
You're
today.
using the co-working a lot, aren't you?
I actually am. Yeah,
Very
it just
cool.
started this week because I was like, man, I need like community.
That's it.
And that's another big piece of stress management.
Oh, 100%.
Connection. Yeah.
So are there other ways besides a test or your heart rate that you can feel you're in a stressed state?
I would say there's actually stress warning signals. There's a whole questionnaire that I give patients. It's emotional signals, physical signals, even spiritual signals, social signals. It's how you are interpreting your stressful experience. So I give people 3 questionnaires when I evaluate their stress levels. And that helps me get an idea of like, a lot of my clients actually are so high functioning that they don't even feel stressed.
Right.
Problem is that their bodies are showing it. And I'm like one of my clients, like trying to convince them to really reevaluate their lifestyle because they have had such low cortisol for over a year and they're not recovering. But whenever I ask them what they're doing, they're traveling and they're always on the go. They're always going places. And it's like, well, how are you possibly going to recover from like literal burnout if you don't actually give yourself the space to do that?
What does low cortisol mean? Explain cortisol's role in this conversation.
The way that I would describe like extremely low cortisol levels is it's really the best way to describe it is burnout. Like it's a person who is unable to maintain healthy hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis. And so this happens over time. This happens over chronic stress over time. When you first experience stress, you release a little bit of cortisol. But if that cortisol gets released every day, all day, for months, if not over a year, it can happen. It depends on the individual, but that can actually cause negative feedback. So that negative feedback loop, hormones work on a feedback loop system. So when they go high, they send feedback to the brain to turn the knob down. But the problem is that the knob can turn down and stay low. And especially if they're under chronic unrelenting stress. And if that happens, you have low blood sugar, you get headaches, you're tired when you wake up in the morning, you don't have energy to exercise effectively, you have a lot of post-exertional fatigue, you just feel like crap. You just feel like crap when you're burned out. And so burnout has to be addressed really at a cellular level and at a social level and a spiritual level and a psychological level. But I look at the biology first because I'm like, okay, does this person have healthy cell membranes? Do they have healthy mitochondrial function? If not, I usually will measure their mitochondrial function and their membrane health, just because sometimes I have to rebuild their cells from like the ground up. And if those cell membranes are not producing energy effectively, then you have to kind of replenish them with phospholipid therapy. And it's essentially like helping to recharge the batteries, essentially. And then you also need lots of minerals for these people. They need a lot of salt because they're not able to maintain mineral corticoid balance effectively. They need hydration. They need vitamin C. They need B vitamins. They usually are pretty depleted. And so you have to replete them effectively. And then you have to look at all of their hormones and find out where are they missing hormones. Because usually a burned out person's hormones are all over the place, often very low. So you'll usually see like low testosterone, low progesterone, low pregnenolone, low DHEA. So I will replace those if I have to, just for a person to feel better.
Yeah.
Because you just got to get a person feeling better, and then you got to work with them to look at, okay, what's driven you to this place, and what are you willing to change about your lifestyle in order to get out of this place.
What is the top 3 things that you think can reduce stress?
Oh gosh, I'd say it really depends on the individual, but I would say the big one is a lot of people are still very isolated from the pandemic era, and it's not really improved. Like 1 in 2 Americans are lonely.
Yeah.
Loneliness is as bad for your health as 15 cigarettes a day. And so we are designed to be pack animals. We are not designed to live alone. We're not designed to live without a community around us. So reconnection is one of the most healing things you can do.
We had that talk with Lori all about connection.
Everything.
We're a podcast guest.
It's in our name.
It's crucial.
It's literally in our name.
It's so important. It's so underappreciated. And it's starting to become more of like oh gosh, this is what's driving a lot of alcoholism and drug addiction and, all sorts of problems that people are having in society. It's they don't have connection. And so, but you have to kind of ease a person back into socializing, because when you are chronically lonely, you can develop this thing called maladaptive social cognition, where you perceive any slight socially as like really bad. So you're more kind of primed for, if I feel any negativity from my social experience, I'm just going to go crawl back.
Different than being like an introvert. So I'm an introvert.
Yeah.
But I'm socially awkward, I feel, but I'm a professional extrovert.
I get it, but that can be somewhat stressful too. You got to find people you feel safe with.
That's right.
Most introverts, when they're in a community of people that they really love and trust,
that
they blossom.
And I love community.
Yeah, which he does, yeah. But he gets a little bit of social anxiety, when we have big member socials,
Yeah.
But once he gets in, he starts talking to members, he is blossoming.
And what would be number 2?
Number 2, I would say, is a big driver of real stress problems is circadian rhythm imbalances. People that are staying up too late, people that are not getting enough sunlight, people that are not sleeping enough. Your circadian rhythms are so fundamental to your health that we're hearing everyone talk about light and the importance of light-dark cycles, because these have a major influence on our body's ability to produce cortisol and our body's ability to produce melatonin. So if we have screens at night, we're getting less melatonin. If we have impaired sleep cycles and we're not getting that early morning sunlight in our face, we're not getting the signals to our brain that it's daytime and that we need to produce the cortisol awakening response. So we need sunlight. We need sunlight and we need sleep. And sleep is something you just cannot overlook. It's so crucial to health. It will affect your ability to exercise. It will affect your ability to eat properly. It has so many downstream effects that if you don't sleep properly and you don't get proper light cycles, you're not going to recover.
Yeah.
And then I guess the third would be, it's the metabolic health piece. So you have to sort of, it depends on if a person's high cortisol or low cortisol, but you have to use nutrition and exercise effectively. Effectively.
Yep.
So a person who's fully burned out should not be going to a HIIT class. They don't have the energy to do HIIT. And they need to be focused on yoga, Pilates, like lower intensity activity. That red light you guys have, fantastic for improving energy in people who are burned out. Sauna is safe for those people, but I would not recommend for a burned out person to do a lot of cold plunging. We need to send safety signals to their cells. These are people that should not be doing a lot of intense fasting, maybe 12 to 14 hours, but I'm not recommending like an extended fast for a burned out person because they can't even regulate blood sugar.
Such good information.
Yeah.
Powerful stuff.
Really important. These are the people that need to eat regular carbs, because if you don't have safety signals from carbohydrates, like you're not going to recover. And I've had to tell my clients this that are burned out, like you got to get regular meal time. You can't be skipping meals. Like those people do not do well they have to have consistency. Now the high cortisol people usually have high blood sugar, usually more insulin resistant. I have to treat them a little bit differently. With those people, if their fasting glucose is high, their postprandial glucose is high, I'll start peptides with them. I'll get them off of coffee. I'll wean them off of coffee, because coffee in a high cortisol state is just like the amount of cortisol that you get released from a scary movie. So it's like you're adding stress to the stress cup by overdoing the caffeine. So getting them off of the stimulants and getting them on, I'm not going to say you have to completely give up caffeine, but it's lowering the dose pretty significantly, getting them to do like 50-50 decaf and then slowly weaning them to like lower amounts of caffeine. Those individuals, I have to really look at their diet because they tend to be the ones where if they eat any refined carbs or sugar, they're going to spike their blood sugar. So I had a client that was a hedge fund manager, high cortisol, abdominal weight gain, very common, very busy year, very successful human. And he's like, I just can't lose this weight and I'm exercising consistently and I'm doing everything right. And I looked at his diet, I spoke to his chef and I was like, okay, he's drinking lemonade with sugar. He's getting all these extra calories from non-alcoholic, beers, which are great, but they still are extra calories. He was getting, he was eating oatmeal for breakfast. That was spiking his blood sugar. Oatmeal's not a bad food, but if your cortisol is high, you're more likely to spike your blood sugar with that. So if you're eating like a bowl of oatmeal and bananas, and you're insulin resistant, which I saw in his labs, I saw high insulin, I saw insulin resistance markers. That bowl of oatmeal and brown sugar and bananas is not helping you at all. Mm-hmm. So I had to get him on more of a protein dominant breakfast. And I started him on a range of peptides to get his blood sugar down. And within a month, he lost 10 pounds, lost a few percentage points in his body fat, and his heart rate started lowering, which it was a little bit higher than it was. It went down. His endurance improved, and he just started feeling better.
Just from his diet change.
It was diet. It was this one peptide called retatrutide. Plus, I gave him this other peptide called SS31 for mitochondrial function, and then another peptide called Selank, which is great for hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis function. So it was a combination of all those things, plus getting him off coffee, plus changing his diet. And we just microdosed the retatrutide. It wasn't even a full dose.
Yeah, that's awesome. Good information right there, bro.
That's great.
Good information.
Your expertise is impressive.
Wow. Thank you.
I want to get back to the circadian rhythm. Like, so do you find a correlation between people who are morning risers that get up super early and have 2 or 3 hours of darkness before the day starts, or people in darker climates in the northern latitudes? I mean, are there correlations with stress and that? Like how?
I haven't really looked at that yet, but I have visited Norway and other Scandinavian countries, and people are pretty chill over there. People are really pretty chill. I don't really get it. They're much calmer people. Yeah. Their society is much safer. They don't have like mass shootings. They don't have crazy news cycles.
Yeah. Do you know who was the least stressful life? What I've been told is the Polynesians.
Oh, I bet.
They're like the lowest stress level.
Yeah, because they're living in the equator and they're having fruit all day and just
living
lounging.
Off the land, beautiful, exactly. Vitamin D.
I mean, that's quite the. I mean, if I could choose to where to live, if I would recommend, if you have a choice on where to live, it is actually like a place that has more sunlight.
Yeah.
There is some evidence that it improves longevity.
Yeah.
That being said, I like cold climates and I like mountains, so I don't know. Like,
cold person, yeah.
I actually never was a cold person until I started skiing and hunting.
Oh,
and
wow.
Then I was like, oh, I love being outside.
Yeah.
So
I'm tropical all the way.
I like tropical too.
Yeah.
I really love tropical.
Yeah.
I like days like we have right now, which are crisp, chilly Northern California, but sunny Northern California.
Oh yeah,
days.
sunny, blue sky,
totally.
cold. It's nice.
That's my thing. What was I going to say? Oh, so a big concept that we talk about here is blue zones.
Yeah.
Right? I don't know how you feel about blue zones. Are they real? Are they statistical anomalies or whatever? But let's just say for a moment they're not. But they all share some patterns that they've been able to study.
Yeah.
We always like to say Evexia is a blue zone. We're trying to create our own blue zone.
Love that.
One of the things they don't. So I'm curious about your take on blue zones. One of the things they don't measure, but it seems like inherent in their way of life is no stress.
That is a huge piece. So I've been thinking a lot about why blue zones are so conducive to thriving. And it's like exercise is just baked into the way that they exist. Yep. They're exercising all day long, low levels of movement all day. They're not sitting around in front of computers. They're like socializing with friends.
Right.
They're having beautiful meals and eating lots of carbohydrates. But the thing is that they're also moving their bodies and they're justifying that carb intake.
Right.
So those Okinawan sweet potatoes are delicious. But if you sit in front of a computer all day long and you eat as many sweet potatoes as they do, you're going to see a very different metabolic result than someone who's moving up hills and carrying baskets and like doing things outside and doing yard work and like going fishing. It's just a different lifestyle.
Yeah.
But they also have a ton of socialization.
Right.
And so the blue zones are a very sort of anti-cell danger response environment. These are environments without significantly serious stressors, right? Like they're generally safer environments. They're places where there's a lot of consistency of socialization. There's a lot of consistency of nutrition. It's mostly whole food nutrition. most of what the nutrition research suggests is that if you get your food from natural whole food sources, you're not going to see the problems that you see in Western disease. Like we eat so many additives in our diet. They don't do that.
Right.
But but a lot of these places are changing. A lot of people are starting to adopt, unfortunately, around the world, a lot of these healthy cultures are starting to adopt Western diets, fast foods and things like that are infiltrating. And so unfortunately, like places like Japan have really high diabetes rates, and they have really long, yeah, they do. Yeah. So I did some work with PwC Japan many years ago for a consulting project. So I went to Japan, experienced a lot of what was going on in their culture, and I saw that, like, unfortunately, they have these really fortunately, they have these really long-lived people, but unfortunately, they are adopting a Western diet. So they have skyrocketing dialysis rates for the elderly, and it's bankrupting their healthcare system.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, nobody knows this.
Wow.
That's crazy.
Because the aging population,
yes.
a less healthy aging population.
These young, beautiful people are eating. So Japan is exceptional at making everything delicious.
We're fucking up their cuisine.
But they will take Western fast food and they will turn it Japanese fast food, and they will make it even more delicious and even more bad for you. And so it's funny because they're sort of like adopting our fast food culture, especially in places like Tokyo. But then their food is so good that you want to keep eating it.
Wow. Bankrupting their health system.
It's nuts.
That's really crazy.
Yeah, people aren't talking about it, but it's happening.
It's happening.
Well, let's get a little nerdy here for a minute. We'll talk about what HPA dysfunction is in the four phases. Let's talk about
hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis is what I was telling you earlier, when you have high cortisol, high stress, releasing cortisol from your hypothalamus sends signal to your pituitary, which sends signals to your adrenals to make cortisol. So there's corticotropin releasing hormone, and then there's cortisol releasing hormone, and then there's cortisol. So there's hormone cascade that happens. And so when that cortisol gets released, it goes back and feeds back to the brain. And if the brain gets the signal that there's high cortisol regularly, it starts to turn down the cortisol response. So HPA, it's funny because like people say HPA, like adrenal fatigue, is a made up thing, but that's because there's actually no such thing as the adrenals are fatigued. It's that the system's messaging is not functioning properly. So I had a patient that just did an ACTH, adrenocortical releasing hormone, ACTH, stimulation test to see if they had Addison's, because they were not recovering their cortisol levels after a year of low cortisol, likely because their lifestyle has not changed at all. They're still living an extremely high stress lifestyle. They're parents, and they have a very busy life. They have multiple properties, they have multiple businesses, and so unfortunately, if you're not willing to change your lifestyle, things are not going to get better. Yeah, they just aren't.
For sure,
it can take 3, 6 to 9 months to a year to heal from mitochondrial dysfunction as a result of HPA axis dysfunction. And the HPA axis takes time to recover, but it has to get new messages, new signals. So the ACTH stimulation test basically showed that their pituitary is not producing enough corticotropin releasing hormone. And so it's not sending the message to the adrenals to make more cortisol. And so there's nothing actually technically wrong with them aside from there's nothing technically, like, they don't have a disease. Addison's disease is when your body just can't make cortisol. That's dangerous. That's actually what John F. Kennedy had. In this person's case, it's likely related to the lifestyle and the stress levels. And chronic unrelenting stress you have to find ways to reduce that. And if you can't, then you're not going to get better.
I think that's where people fail. They don't have the discipline to make the changes.
Or they just,
or consistency.
Honestly, it's really, really hard it's really hard to admit that, like, you need help and you need to be supported. And a lot of these parents are like really high functioning business people and their parents. And so they've got kids to take care of, they've got businesses to take care of, they've got partnership to take care of. And, it takes a lot of high functioning capacity to get to a significant state of success. And most of my clients are extraordinarily successful, but some of them manage better than others. And culture also plays a big role. Like in California, we have a really strong culture of wellness, right? Like it's just baked into the way that we live. But I have clients from all over the world who come visit me and meet me, and they want to work with me. And it's a very different client who's from the Middle East or like even Louisiana, than a client who's living in California. So sometimes it's a cultural thing. You have to actually work with their their mindset.
Yeah.
So as sort of part of our staff here now, if you were to help us design sort of a stress department,
Sure.
like how to help our members diagnose how stressed they are, what their markers are, and help us produce programs to overcome stress.
Yeah.
Let's sort of talk through that.
Yeah. I mean, I like to put Oura rings on all my clients, and then I have a continuous glucose monitor
I was going to ask you about this.
on me.
Yeah.
And I love this as a stress sensor. People don't realize this, but like I can see if a person is high or low cortisol pretty effectively through their CGM. And I've got like a decade of experience, 15 years of experience using CGMs clinically. I was one of the first doctors to use these. But Oura now has a relationship with Stelo, Dexcom. It's over-the-counter CGM. So when I first started prescribing these, they were only prescription only. And I was like one of the few doctors that was like, wait, everybody should be wearing these. But yet they're not, it's not really considered to be like, at the time it wasn't considered to be normal for like a healthy person.
Yeah.
But what I discovered
It's
is
for
that
diabetes, essentially,
most people
right?
are not healthy. Turns out most people. I had high fasting blood sugar when I first put this on in 2014. I was borderline pre-diabetic, and I had no idea.
That's crazy.
Crazy.
That's crazy.
And it took me a lot of lifestyle changes, and now my average daily glucose is like 94, which is actually really, really good. But I think it's really important for people to know, okay, like, is my blood sugar stable? What is my HRV? And this is not a perfect monitor for HRV, but it's a decent one.
Yeah.
What is my resting heart rate? How much exercise am I actually getting every day? And you can do that through an Oura ring. So
Measure your sleep as well, yeah?
measures your sleep. And that's one of my keystone habits is I sleep a lot. I sleep like 9 hours a night.
Wow.
And I just need it. Like most women actually need more sleep than men. So it makes a huge difference in my life because everyone's like, what's your secret? And I'm like, I sleep a lot.
So is it the quantity or the quality of sleep?
Both.
I mean, it's both.
It's both.
So average 50 male, 8 hours, 7 hours.
In general,
Female,
8 is the goal for most people. Women, it seems like we need more.
Yeah.
So, but really, you got to look at that quality as
Yeah.
well, because you want to see, are you getting enough REM sleep? Are you getting enough deep sleep? Oura has gotten better and better and better. I'm actually trying a new ring called the Bond ring coming up once they send it to me. But there's so much you can do without even getting a blood draw. But I also would recommend that if you are gonna, you should have at least a yearly assessment of your labs. And I like to look at AM cortisol levels. I like to look at fasting insulin, homocysteine for oxidative stress, CRP for inflammation, all of the lipids. I use an NMR lipoprotein profile. I like to look at your organs, CMP, CBC. Not everybody can get these easily, but like there's companies like Function Health that you can get them pretty effectively.
So I have a question for women. So on the perimenopause, does the stress go up? Does the body react? I know cortisol goes up.
Yeah,
that,
so
right?
when women's hormones start getting dysregulated,
Yeah.
it definitely can affect our ability to manage stress and also ability to maintain healthy blood sugar levels.
There.
So when women's estrogen goes down, their insulin sensitivity goes down, so they have higher blood sugar. So I have found that just fixing women's hormones in their 40s is a huge strategy for getting their blood sugar stabilized.
Got it.
Crucial.
Yeah.
Really, really important though is also recognizing that like you can monitor your hormones throughout the month now. There's a company called Myra. And if you're going through perimenopause and you're wondering what the heck is going on inside my body, you can actually see when your high estrogen levels or low estrogen levels, or low progesterone levels. And then you can talk to your doctor about replacement. And then the other thing you can do is there's a company called Ellie Health. You can actually measure salivary cortisol at home. So there's so many things that you can do now at home that you never had.
And nobody knows about them. That's the thing.
Yeah.
I think you're going to have Gigi on the pod.
Yeah, she'll be here. Yeah, she's going to be talking about menopause, perimenopause, and postmenopause.
Totally.
So if we were to try to curate some programs here,
Yeah.
with some level of education or instruction, what would that look like?
I mean, I think a big piece of stress management is building resilience. And so understanding what resilience is, understanding how to prepare yourself properly so that if you do get hit with a major life stressor, you have the ability to stay resilient. There's post-traumatic stress disorder, but there's also post-traumatic growth. So knowing the things that are the predictors of PTSD versus PTSG is really important because you might encounter a large, massive life stressor, and how you prepare yourself and how you live every day will determine whether or not that gets converted into a mental disorder or a opportunity for massive growth and transformation. And so it really does help to have a little bit of understanding of all this. I have an entire lecture on relationships and health, love and longevity, and the cell danger response, and and this whole new concept of our mistus therapies that can help close that healing cycle. And I just started giving that keynote at conferences with huge acclaim. Like people are loving it. I might try to apply for a TED Talk.
Nice.
But yeah, I think we need to really pursue stress from multiple lenses. We need to look at what can you do individually? How can I measure it? What can I do to build my own resilience? And how do I surround myself with the right people to have the support I need if things do happen that are challenging? But then also, what do I do to get out of high cortisol or low cortisol?
Yeah.
And I have an entire protocol that is really in depth that can really teach you, okay, what do I need to be looking at? Labs, what do I need to be looking at in terms of lifestyle, supplements, peptides, even hormones, and nutrition and fitness.
Great lectures. I think those are the ones that will take a big draw.
Yeah, absolutely.
Those are good ones.
So many topics.
Everybody's stressed these days, especially what's going on in this world, man. I mean, this is a crazy time.
I also people don't underestimate real vacations. Like I took my first real vacation where I didn't work. Literally over the break, I went skiing, and I was like, this is the first time that I have not worked. I think I worked the very first day, and then I turned off my computer for like four
Good
days.
for you.
That's
4
nice.
days I did not work, and it was like
How'd that feel?
I felt like I got renewed. I felt regenerated.
But then when you got back, you opened up your computer, all those emails, your cortisol level shot back up.
Well, you know what I did
How do
is
you
I came to
maintain that?
Evexia, and I was like, I'm sitting down, and I'm getting my work done, and I'm just gonna like focus, and I'm just gonna like tackle everything effectively. And honestly, this week has been really great.
I think when I got back from on-site, I had so many emails because you're off the grid.
Yeah.
I think I went and I deleted every one of them. It was like 600 emails. I'm like, There's no fucking way I'm going to read
Maybe
it.
that's we should have a no phone policy. Just drop your phones at the door at Evexia.
Oh, that'd be amazing.
That would be amazing.
Right.
I mean, except for I like to listen to music when I work out.
Yeah. We have great music here, by the way.
I mean,
so so that's a good segue for the shameless plug. You came to our lives through a mutual friend. What was it about Evexia that drew you to us and wanted to work with us?
I mean, first of all, it's just an exceptionally gorgeous gym. Like it's the most beautiful gym I've ever seen. The views are insane. And then I also just like the fact that like every aspect of health is supported here. So you guys have a lot of recovery practices built into your journey of clients. So it's not just about working out. It's about like, I feel so much better after a workout when I do red light in the massage chair or sauna.
Yeah.
And it's just like a new routine of mine that I get to do here. Your all the food that you guys carry is really healthy in your fridges. Like you guys really care about the quality of the products that you provide your consumers here. And then the fact that you have a very strong social orientation as a gym is really crucial. And most gyms are kind of like modern estuaries, right? It's where we gather. And I went to my first class and I made a friend and I felt like, oh my gosh. And then the teacher was so fantastic, Jordan.
Oh yeah.
I was like, I hate cardio, but he made kickboxing so fun.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay.
You're part of the Jordan fan club.
Oh, for sure. His
it's a big
classes fill up really fast.
Totally.
So I just feel like, because I just returned from being in Wyoming for like almost 2 years. And before that, I was in Austin for almost 2 years. So I was kind of like reconnecting with the Bay. And I was like, how am I going to make friends in Marin? All my friends are in the city or South Bay because I lived in Oakland, San Francisco, and Palo Alto, but I never lived in Marin.
Right.
So the best way to make friends is joining a gym.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And this gym has been better than others.
Awesome.
Yeah, I was just a total side note. We're gonna have to wrap up, but I'm just always curious. People who've grown up in California, lived in the Bay Area specifically, and then find themselves in Austin. It's got to be a huge.
I mean, the weather is just not the same.
Right.
It's just not the same. It's really hot and it's really affordable.
Yeah. We get it. I mean,
it's got a lot of cool culture to it now, and the foods have gotten pretty good. It's just not the same as California.
Yeah.
It's just not. I think it's people just move there for taxes.
No doubt. Yeah.
Yeah.
An opportunity. I mean, if you're
But
young,
you spend all the time. If you're young still, like California is still the best place to build a career. Like hands down, the best place in the country to build a career is the Bay Area.
There's no ocean out there in Austin.
There's no ocean.
Which doesn't mean anything for somebody who hasn't wasn't born by the ocean.
The other
For those of
annoying
us
thing
born by
about
the ocean.
Austin is, and I'm trying to bash it, but like it's always a connecting flight. Like that airport cannot support the amount of people that are going through it, and SFO is just massive.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
So.
So one of the things as we wrap up, you're sort of getting listeners behind the scenes is, you know, when we think about collaborating with you at a high level, we want to be careful not to turn into a medical clinic. That's not what we are.
No,
You know, we're a
it's about
club,
health optimization.
Right. And
Health
so,
optimization.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yep.
So it's about using your wisdom and your experience, but within our, you know, staying in our lane essentially. And so,
Yeah.
So we look forward to working on that with you.
Totally.
We look forward to more lectures and podcasts and articles in the newsletter. And
Nice.
I'm more impressed every time I speak to you, man.
Aw, thank you.
yeah, it just keeps us going with other ideas. Any
Totally.
other final thoughts you want to share on just how our members and listeners should be thinking about stress?
You know, I recently turned off my Instagram. I deleted it for 2 weeks, and I have a much healthier relationship to it now. I'm not reaching to my phone to check and to scroll. It's really changed my relationship to social media, and I'm realizing how much everybody needs to do a 2-week all social media, delete every app. Just do it for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Just see what happens to your memory, see what happens to your attention, see what happens to your mood. I feel way more regulated. I feel way less just constantly scrolling.
Right.
And that you waste so much of your day
Yeah.
and your life
Right.
scrolling. And it's not that social media can often provide you with lots of useful information, but really important to curate your feed properly because you might be getting lots of negative messages that you shouldn't be actually watching.
Right.
So I would definitely recommend thinking about your relationship to technology and really trying to spend at least one day a week just totally off of technology.
Right.
It's really it truly helps you reconnect with those that you love. My boyfriend was basically describing it. He was like, sometimes you're just not present because you're on your phone. And my family's complained about this. And I'm like, okay, if my friends and my boyfriend and my family have both complained about me not being present because I am on my phone, then I need to have a different relationship with my phone.
Right.
And the truth is that we're so phone addicted.
Yeah.
And it's keeping us from being actually active in our own lives.
Yeah.
So I would just recommend it's the beginning of the year. You're probably doing an alcohol cleanse. You're probably not drinking for January. Try 2 weeks off social media. Try 2 weeks off of the news. Just see what happens.
Yeah, right.
You know?
You're probably too young, but we're both Gen X's. Living in the 80s without social media was amazing.
I'm borderline. I'm 1984.
It was the best time to live. It was to communicate.
You guys got the golden era.
We really did.
You really
experienced
did.
everything. Right?
The 90s were awesome. And then we got the internet.
So the 80s and 90s were awesome.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Dr. Molly, it's an absolute pleasure.
Thank you.
Will you come back?
Absolutely.
We'll see you
Yeah.
tomorrow.
Great to see you.
Sounds great.
Thanks.